Hi, this is Doc Bayne. I am the retired environmental educator and historian who worked at Sterling Forest State Park. One day somebody gave me a call and said, "Did you hear about the fish kill?" And I didn't know what they were talking about, so I drove over to Sterling and I saw that there were a lot of dead fish in Four Corners Pond. Then people were saying, the fish died, the town killed the fish, the mulch pile, there's a natural kill, there's something going on, fish are dying. So I decided to take a walk and I went down to the Ramapo River. Now you see where this X is, that's where I started my hike, and I feel that everyone should come on my hike and take a look at what I found and make a decision on your own. So from that X, we looked at the Ramapo River. This is looking north on the Ramapo, and I looked to the shore over to the right, and it didn't look too bad, just normal gray, brownish rock. So I turned to my left, and I noticed there's a little drift island. When I say drift island, that's where the wood that comes down the Warwick Brook was being caught by a tree. But I noticed there was some white on that, and the closer I got, I saw that it was all dead clams. Now I didn't even know that there were any clams in the Warwick Brook. Well, it turns out that's an Asian clam, which is an invasive creature. But also I noticed that there were small baby mussels in it. Well, I talked about this to some of the town people, and they said, oh, well, maybe that's a pile where animals would have collected. So I started doing a little bit more research, and I found that the Asian clam is invasive here in the East Coast. And between Harriman and Southfields, it's established itself in the river. But if animals are feeding off of them, there would be teeth and claw marks in the shells. So that theory was gone. Maybe animals are feeding on them dead, but something else has killed these clams. So I turned and I started walking up the river, and I noticed there's foam and dead clams, dead turtle, foam coming down the river. Both banks are covered with dead clam shells. The further I walked, I noticed more and more, and then there was a catch in the water, and on that catch was this red foam. Never seen red foam in a stream before. So we continue, and as we walk, I'm noticing now dead mussels everywhere. More red foam. Continuing walking up the stream, more clams, both sides, a foam floating down the river. Now I notice there's white foam. White foam is natural when you come to running water. And so there's a little area where the water is running quite quick. And the foam was all right. Except there is a little red tinge to it. Again, where is this red coming from? It's a mystery to me. We crossed the railroad, crossed Route 17, and continue going west. More foam. And then I noticed there's a sign on the right-hand side, and it says that there's a speeds permit, so there is a septic system. Okay, maybe that's causing it, but let's continue to walk up the stream. But I've never seen a red foam coming from that type of unit. Every time I find a catch, there's more foam, the white foam and red foam. Now it's all over the water coming down the stream, and the rocks are starting to get a different color to them. I look over to the right, and there's the septic, and I will go over to that, and I walk all the way up to the X. Now the X is at the bottom of the dam of the Weewa, and the rocks have this red color to them. And there in the center of that X is where I found those rocks. Go up, and there's a reddish tinted water coming over the dam, and you take a closer look, we've got this red stuff. On the side of the dam, there's more red, and it's this red foamy stuff with bubbles in it. So it looks like the septic system is clean. What I'm going to do is now walk you from the Weewa all the way up the Warwick Brook to International Paper, to all of the ponds and streams, all the way up past the mulch pile. So here's where we're going to go. We're going to take these numbers one at a time. So let's start at Weewa Lake. We walk from the dam over to where the Warwick Brook enters, and we find red foam coming down the brook, and the rocks are stained red. As we take a closer look, it's a mystery. What is this stuff? So we're going to walk up the stream. We notice that the water has foam on it, and it's a dirty color look. And we notice there's a little tiny waterfalls over to the right, and if you take a closer look, it's discolored. It's got this reddish color to it, and the rocks are all stained red. So now let's walk up the Warwick Brook. From Weewa, as we go up, we see there's foam. Now at the high rapids, or where there's a good water flow over the rocks, the foam is white, but then there are dead mussels everywhere. Up about 100 feet, there's a beaver dam which has been abandoned, and we see this color stuff in the water. I've nicknamed it diesel. That doesn't mean it's diesel fuel, but that's the closest I could come to it. So as we look around this little area where the beaver used to live, this diesel color stuff is everywhere. And foam. Now we walk up another 200 feet, we come to a dam where another beaver has moved in, and there's this red foam. Now let's walk up to International Pond. This is where International Paper used to be, and the stream comes from the top, goes down into the pond, and if you look down on the bottom right, you see where the stream flows out, and that is actually going up to Four Corners Pond. As we walk along the edge of the pond, we see this foam coming down the stream, and if we take a look right here in the middle, there's quite a bunch of it has been caught. All the rocks on that section have been turned red, and there's this sludge that's been moving through the stream very slowly like a big snail. Now let's walk up to the Four Corners and we'll follow the stream. As we go up the stream, we're noticing all of this foam, and the water's colored red, and big piles of foam. This is up at the spillway for Four Corners, and foam is coming over the top. Now at Four Corners Pond, this is the pond, and we're coming up from the left side. And I notice along the edge there's diesel looking stuff and dead fish. As you walk along the edge of the pond, there are lots and lots of dead fish. What caused this? It's a mystery. Just to give you an idea of the size of some of these fish. And frogs. Dead, stiff frogs and turtles. Found one live turtle. That's a painted turtle, but I don't know who painted it brown. Now let's walk from that section up to Con Ed Brook. Four Corners is on your left, and Con Ed Brook is in the middle going up to the right. Out of the back of Four Corners, we see this red stuff again, and more dead mussels. The rocks are all red tinted. There's foam everywhere. There's a catch, and the foam is just packed in there. As we get closer to the Con Ed Marsh, look at the color of the water. Now, we're at Con Ed Marsh, and that is where the power line crosses over near the top of your screen. Every 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the rainfall, Orange County would remove the beaver dam, and that was because they would not want it to flood Long Meadow Road. Back to the hike. This is the dam that I walked up to, still intact, with all this stuff being blocked, and the whole pond area is dieseled. As we walk along, we'll come up to John's Pond. Red foam all along the edge, and as we walk closer to the right, we find all of this foam packed in there. Now we're walking south along the road, and this section is all covered with diesel. Now, Long Mine Marsh connects the pond to a parking area where the hunters go in during the winter. If you look straight at the far back where that car is, that's Long Meadow Road coming up from John's Pond. And we find more diesel and red stained rocks. What stained these rocks red? Well, there's this reddish slime in the water. And Long Mine Swamp is full of it. And diesel and slime. What's causing this? This is up where the pipe goes underneath the road and connects Long Mine Swamp with Lower Caretaker Marsh. To the left, you see that little dot next to the highway. That's the pipe that goes underneath, and we're going to walk that land mass out in the middle of the screen. So here's the pipe coming from the marsh. Doesn't look good. And when we look back in the swamp, we see that it's all throughout that swamp. There's a pipe that comes out of the Upper Caretaker Swamp, which we're looking at on the right-hand side. And this material is flowing through it. Now, the Upper Caretaker Marsh, those of you who are familiar with the area, there's a little gray house, and that's where the caretaker for the property used to live. By the pond, just on the western side of the marsh, you see there's a road. Well, that is the fire road that goes to the interior part of the park. So here is the Upper Caretaker Swamp. Looks pretty nice, except that was in 2005. Now in 2012, on my hike, this is what it looked like. Now those two pipes, the state park removed some floating debris from one of the pipes because what was going on was the pond had silted into these pipes, clogged them, and the water was overflowing the fire road. So the park had to keep the fire road open, but there have been no beavers in this area since 2008 when there was a fish kill. Now, if we look into these pipes, you see this is what's going into those pipes. It's all dead debris coming out of the pond. So, where is it coming from? It's a mystery because I don't know. And this is what clogged up the pipes. Wouldn't want to be swimming in there. But in the back of the Caretaker Marsh that's the location of the mulch pile. Could it be coming from that? I don't know. It's a mystery. To the east of the Caretaker Marsh, there's an input stream. You'll see it kind of in the middle, just to the right, coming from right to left. So we walked out to that stream, and it's pristine. The water is fine. There's no foam at all. Now let's take a look at the mulch pile. So if you look at Long Meadow Road going down the center, we walked from the top of the screen all the way down through all the swamp area, and now we're at the mulch pile. You notice the property line on the right-hand side comes down and makes kind of a small turn left, and then it's got that angle at the bottom. That's the edge of the mulch pile, and you'll notice that it's right against the swamp. There it is on the right. I don't know how to make mulch. I don't understand the process, but the operators run this daily. Now, we did find a hidden danger. We walked to the back of the area and we found that there are logs back there, and there's logs being processed and sold, and we went through these regulations and found out that ash trees are forbidden to be moved in or out of Orange County. And here are the regulations, and right there it says that Orange County is quarantined. And here are the quarantine areas of New York State. The wood processing is going on back behind the mulch pile. And they're all stacked up, but what we noticed when we took a close look, that the piles have been stacked by grade. This type of wood you see in front of you would be for pulp and firewood. This would be medium grade wood, which would be used for building material, but in this pile are ash trees. Ash is a good building material, but it is forbidden to be brought into and out of Orange County. And then there's high grade wood, which is for furniture, flooring, and building material, and that whole area is filled with ash trees. Trucks come in and out daily, and here's a truck from Quebec. They're coming in and buying wood and taking it to Quebec. But daily, their trucks move in and out carrying wood to somewhere. That's a mystery. They also pump water from the Scott mine. They need water to put on top of the mulch pile so it will not self-ignite. On the right-hand side, there's a little tiny building. You'll see that there's a hole filled with water, and there's a stream that fills that, and this is where they're pumping the water out. This is the Scott Mine Shaft number 1. That's from a mine that's underground. They have pumps that they pump the water out. The hoses are buried so the trucks can drive over them. This is another mystery. We found this. We don't know what it's for, but it's all clogged up, so it's not for much. Then the hoses go up, as you see, to the top of this dirt pile, and they spray water on the dirt to keep it from burning. Hoses then travel over to the mulch pile, and it's sprayed constantly to keep it moist so that it won't catch fire. But sometimes that does happen, and they have to dig the fire out where it caught, and they spray it with the water. There is water coming out of the mulch pile. Well, duh, where's it coming from? Well, they're spraying it on top of the pile. So this comes down to an area, and notice it's got a red tint to it, and a diesel kind of look. But I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not an expert. I just wonder what happens with that material. Well, they built a catchway. This is a gravel area, and I've been told that it is 14 feet deep, and there's a perforated pipe at the bottom, and they have these vertical pipes every so often, and the moisture is supposed to go into that line of perforated pipe down 14 feet below the surface. There's a drawing that we got from the town, and that shows how that was approved and designed, and engineers approved that to put in. But now let's take a closer look at this. There are 5 pipes coming out of the ground, vertical pipes that are connected to the perforator pipe. I think. I didn't see them build it, but this is what I've been told by the people who have seen the drawing. Pipe number 1, if we look down into that pipe, we see some really, let's call that yuck. It might be this material, which I'm pretty sure is flowing into it. Now this is pipe number 2, and there's yuck at the bottom of that. Now let's walk up to pipe number 3. We look in that pipe and there's more yuck. Pipe number 4, more yuck. Now we get to pipe 5, and there's a little mystery here because that pipe is 8 feet high and really tough to look in. That gentleman standing on the wall is 6'2". So I managed to bring along a piece of equipment where I could put my camera on it, and I took a picture down the pipe. So that's pipe number 5. But it did puzzle me that at the bottom of this pipe, there's no yolk. But there's another pipe coming out of the pipe. But underneath it, there's no yolk. So why no yolk at the bottom? The small pipe is not on the drawing of the town. There's a contour line, which you might mistake for a pipe, but that little pipe is not on the drawing, so there's a mystery going on. Leaches, let me show you on the left side, 1, 2, and 3, are areas where it seems that stuff is coming out of the ground. I don't know where it's coming from, it's a mystery. But if you follow it, it's got that diesel and then also the red foam look to it. Leach number 2, I took a video of it so you can see that it's flowing. And that flows out from the wall that is surrounding the mulch pile and flows right out into the swamp. And here are some stills. Right out into the wetlands. And then there's also leachate number 3. And underneath this pile of wood chips and branches, we see that there's water flowing. And that flows out into the wetland. Near the end of the line of piping, you look to the swamp side and you see that it's right up against the marsh. But we saw that on the survey drawing. But looking from aerial shot, we look to the left, a little over halfway up the screen, and we see that there's more water flowing. So we took a little walk up there and we found there are 2 pipes coming out of the wall and stuff flowing out of it, and that looks kind of like a diesel look here, and that flows into the wetlands. Don't know where that's coming from. That's kind of a mystery. Now the Scott Mine, if you look just a little bit to the almost the center of the picture, you see there's 2 shafts, shaft number 1 and shaft number 2. Shaft 1 is where they're pumping the water out that is fed by this pristine stream. Shaft number 2 is west of that, on the other side of Long Meadow Road. So I wondered if the shafts underground are connected water-wise. I do know that the mine is 400 feet deep and is a big cavern, and this was the hoist that would take the ore out, and the other shaft was where the workers would go in, so it is connected underground. So let's take a look, and looking down into the shaft, we find red foam, yuck. Now let's go up to the headwaters. Headwaters come off the top of the mountain in the form of a stream, and they go into Scott Mine number 1. If you look by that little house again, just about in the center of the screen, you see there's green, and that's where the stream is flowing down the hill. So as we walk up the stream, we see that it's not so bad. We brought in a scientist. Actually, a scientist was brought in, and I came for the walk. And He studies insects. And he brought a kick net, and these are the insects that he found, all alive, very healthy and happy. And he said to me, these would die if there was any pollution. So it looks like the head end stream is fine. He actually said you could drink out of it. And also, we found fish. We found little minnow called the black-nosed dace. So it looks like the head end stream is really fine. There's our black-nosed dace. Now there's another surprise. Underneath the mulch pile, there are faults. And those faults are cracks in the ground where water travels. And it looks like the fault goes over to Tuxedo Lake. So you can see there's a black line in the middle. Well, that is actually what's called the Potting Shed Brook, and that starts at Sterling, but it does not connect to any of the wetlands because it's a little bit higher. So I went up to the stream, and it was pristine. Now you see there's some white foam in there. White foam is fine. White foam is natural. But as I walked down the stream from this spot down to here, into the swamp, the water looked really fine, nice and clean coming in. But as we walked deeper into the swamp, we started to find some yuck. We found diesel in the middle of the swamp. So the theory is that that's coming out of the fault. And we walked a little bit further, and then we noticed that there's red yuck coming out of the ground. Well, the Potting Shed Brook goes into this swamp and comes out the other side. So we figured, well, maybe it's picking up some of this yuck. But that's a mystery. So we're at this spot now, and now we go over to here. We had to walk around the mountain to the right because the swamp is so thick you can't get through it. We walked up to the stream that comes out, and it's got a red tinge to it. The water looks really weird. There's a little white foam, but then we look and there's red foam. This stream doesn't even connect to the mulch pile, so the only way that we possibly think is that it was connected through the fault. So now we follow the stream up to that pond on the top you see on the screen, and that's got a red tinge to it. And notice the red foam down at the bottom. So we continue to walk down the stream, and there's red foam. Under that rock to the left, red foam. Red tinge to the side of the stream. Red foam. This stream runs into another swamp. White foam, but it's got a red tinge to it. So we're at this spot here. In the center of the screen is a large swamp, so we had to walk the forest around it again to over here. At this spot, we found the road. Well, actually more of a trail. So here was the road, and underneath that road there's a culvert. There are 3 culvert pipes. So the swamp is on the left. You can see why we couldn't walk through it. And they go under the road, and where these gentlemen are pointing is the way over to Tuxedo Lake, and this is the Potting Shed Stream, and there's foam going through the pipes to the other side. So we're at this spot where the X is, and now we decide to let's go take a ride over to the Potting Shed. We looked at the stream there, and it's got a weird look to it. We're not finding any red foam, but it's got a red tinge to it, but it doesn't look like I would want to drink it. And then this runs into Tuxedo Lake. Patterson Brook, which is a little bit further north, has that look to it. We didn't see any red foam, but it's got a really strange look to it. But it's been coming through the woods and heading over into Tuxedo Lake. Here's Tuxedo Lake, and on the bottom left is where those two streams come into the lake. Now here's an update. May 10th, I went over to the Upper Caretaker Marsh, and this is what it looks like. Where did it come from? I don't know. But I think everyone should try and find out where it's coming from.